it's no secret I'm passionate about gaming. It's no secret I'm passionate about music. And then when the two things kind of collide, it happens. And it happens often.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, one could argue I am the most video gamified EDM artist of all time.
Absolutely.
I almost am sure that's a fact.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited about this collaboration, but first I have a few questions, just general gaming questions. I read that Castlevania inspired some of your music. Can you talk about some of the games you grew up with and your relationship with games and how that's evolved into your passion and how that evolution has infused with your music?
Oh, wow. Okay, well, you're talking like old guy. So gaming for me started like Commodore, Atari, 1200 and 2600, and then on to like kind of the better higher end Commodores, but these were like little monophonic speakers. So music and gaming wasn't really a big thing at all. It was some blips and bloops and stuff like that. There were some little edge cases in Atari games where there would be like a little tune or something, but that's as far as it went. But then music and gaming started with the Nintendo Entertainment System, the first one. For the younger kids out there, it was the big box one, not the one with the little blue reset switches. Anyway, that had incorporated a better FM frequency modulation chip in the game itself that allowed for a polyphonic or multiple notes being played at the same time, and blah blah blah, long technical story about that. But and then we started to come into the video game OST world where it's like Castlevania had a theme, Legend of Zelda had a theme, and all these stuff, and music started to take hold in video gaming, and that was like really cool for me because it's just, I don't know, I guess I was inherently passionate about music and video games, and then when they both kind of came together in my lifetime, it was like, wow, this is like the best of both things that I love, and that was really cool. So yeah, soundtracks in video games and music in video games in general just were very primitive. In their compositional sense. Of course, this was in an era when rock bands and pop bands and all that stuff could do really cohesive, big, bright sounding audio, but just the technology in video games could not like even come close to being able to reproduce or re-record or that kind of music. So it was just kind of all about the optimization game, and then that's what got me interested in programming and learning all these kind of things to make games or to make music with video game engines and video game methodology and stuff like that. So it's been a trip. But yeah, I mean, my first collection of timeless soundtracks were things like Castlevania, Final Fantasy, Paperboy.
Paperboy, yes.
Yeah, shit like that. So it's been pretty cool.
Well, speaking of the game we're here for, what drew you into the World of Tanks series?
Tanks.
Of course.
Yeah, like tanks.
Like tanks?
I like tanks.
Why like that?
That's what drew me in. No, I mean, I am a fan of any kind of like team battle royale sport or survival of the fittest kind of thing, where it's just there's a big open area and you get to like either walk around or drive around. But actually, more often than not, you're just like some biped, player controller, just kind of running around shooting and eliminating other people from the server, and that's all fun and great, but like the tank thing is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's got that like slow, calculated human movement, not like a car, you know what I mean, which is like way too fast and all that stuff. And it's just got that nice controlled feeling of just positioning yourself in a spot like you would if you were walking, but you're a freaking tank, so you're shooting 50 millimeter mortars at dudes instead of little, and then trying to grind them down.
Blowing the shit out.
Yeah, blowing stuff up.
Now, how did this collaboration come about? Can you talk about the vibe of this game and your music together?
How it came about is, as many things and pretty much everything in my life does, is like in my inbox. Hey, dude, or through a LinkedIn plug or something. I don't know, but then it's just I got my hands on a lot of pies, and I'm always on the road traveling and doing stuff. So I try to seek out a lot of opportunities myself, but more often than not, if I'm being perfectly honest, they just kind of get funneled into management, and they're like, "Hey, do you like this?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I love it. Let's nibble at that and make that work." So I think it was one of those.
Oh, interesting. Now, something that I absolutely love about the gaming community is some of these big events, and you're very familiar with these events. Can you talk about hosting the Tank Blitz holiday celebration, and what excites you the most about that event?
I honestly, like, what excites me the most, because it's like, truth be told, I've been in front of audiences before and have done public engagement, as one does as a DJ and stuff like that. I think what I'm more interested in is just seeing the best of the best and how they do it. That kind of thing, in terms of the gameplay and stuff like that. So that'll be pretty exciting to see, because I would do that. Sometimes I entered into a pro PUBG tournament, once, and these kids are psycho. Like, and I'm old. I'm 42. Like, my muscle memory's just gone, and I would go and compete in these things, and I suck. But just to get your ass kicked by someone that really knows what they're doing and then know how they did it, it's just like, cool. So it's kind of like me getting on the other end of maybe what I'm doing at a show is, I see people like, having a great time, and then I'm just up there like, what's the big deal? I've been doing this for like 25 years, and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. So.
You and I are the same age, but you're definitely way more flexible. I couldn't do that behind the stretch back thing. I think
I couldn't either. So
I mean, you came pretty close to it.
Yeah,
but
I'm lanky.
I read about you that was that you almost look at doing these events almost like a GM would for sports, putting on these bigger shows. And I've been to some of these things, and they're so exciting to watch. And I love just watching people play these games. Can you talk about what excites you about these type of events in general?
Well, almost exactly what you said. I love being there and I love watching that, but I'm going to have the best seat in the house.
Yes.
So I think that's really the excitement for me.
Absolutely. Now, you're one of the most iconic artists in the world and made such an impact with your music. How do you infuse your music and sound into Tank Blitz? And what can you tell us about the exclusive tracks you composed for the event?
Well, the tracks were kind of half started. Like, I have a really extensive library of things. I think I have a certain community of super fans that probably know this, but I tend to do not finished tracks more than I do actually finish them and put them out there. So this was just kind of one of those things where it was just like, hey, and as per this, which is you're already on board and excited for, we would love an exclusive track. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I got you, and then I just kind of went in and had to listen to a few of them, and thought, okay, well, this one kind of lends itself to tanky stuff. So I'll finish it off, provide the stamps, and then we can somehow merge it into the gameplay. So I thought that'd be pretty cool.
When you play the game yourself, does that kind of inspire some of the music that you'd like to infuse with things like this?
Real answer?
Yeah, real answer.
Real answer, not really.
Really?
I honestly, and God bless all these games and their respective soundtracks, especially the ones that go out and spend $15-16 million on the Finac Orchestra at fucking East West Audio to record it. First thing I do when I start playing a game is go into the options and the music.
Really?
Yep. That's a really bad take for the guy that's sitting here yeah, I love music and games. You mute and then just to me it's probably just a me thing. I find music distracting, not because it takes away from anything, because I tend to, when the soundtrack's really good, let's just go back to Elden Ring, right? That's an amazing score, all done up properly. It's not some guy with a Rompler in a studio in Santa Clara. It's legit. It's amazing music, but I find when that boss music comes on, I tend to be thinking about it. And I'm getting my ass whooped by Godfrey, or whoever, anyone, and I'm just like, shit, I was listening to the sound cues, I was listening to this and that and stuff like that. So music games, not good, because I tend to focus way too much on the music than I do on the gameplay, so it's a little distracting.
No, that's a great answer, though. That's something that I just wouldn't have expected from that. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, because I just don't listen to music anymore like I used to. I remember being, I was thinking about this last night, actually. I was like, when I was 14, 15, and I was just kind of getting into electronic music, early electronic music, right. I would be up in bed and just listening to that. I'd be in a trance and all that, and that was great. It was really weird. Then that's when I understood that, music takes you places and invokes all these thoughts and brings back memories and all that shit. Now when I listen to it, it's like, I wonder what synth that is. He's really overcompressed that, or it could be a little louder. I mean, I'm giving mixed advice, even to my own shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, I tend to overanalyze stuff. So music in games for me is a little.
So is it hard to turn off that critical?
It is. It is. I can't shut it off. It's too late. It's like it's drilled in.
It's
a core implant
from filmmakers too, that they'll watch something and it's hard for them to like take themselves out of it.
It's like that guy that like you're watching a movie, you really enjoy it, but then you watch a YouTube video on all the continuity errors and you're like, holy shit, that was bad. But I never noticed that because I wasn't looking. You know, so if you watch like Gladiator and then a 777's flying over the fucking battle, you never would have noticed that until someone, I'm actually, and then you're like, holy shit, you know.
Wow. Takes you
Someone
out.
shut that guy's brain off. It sucks. You know, it's ruining it. So I don't want to ruin it.
Now, not only will we be hearing your music, but the shop will also include, Deadmau5 style tanks, skins, and icons. What excites you the most about those items?
Okay. So what excites me most about the Deadmau5 kind of skins and items and assets that are going into the game is that World of Tanks Blitz is kind of just like an offshoot of the main franchise, right? So they're like kind of like, hey, let's get weird with tanks, you know what I mean? Versus like, I don't know, the armchair. Actually, Sherman tanks, that guy. So I think World of Tanks Blitz is more focused on just, hey, let's get weird. You know, let's add turbo. Let's add fun graffiti and all that stuff too. So that loosey-goosey kind of like play while, maintaining the fact that it's a tank and not like a hover tank or let's not get too weird, but has really opened up a lot for, artists to come in and, design things with our, brand and my kind of style, I guess, for lack of a better word. So it's been really cool and liberating to be able to have that freedom to do that.
It definitely feels like it has this more like arcade vibe.
Well, I've done this actually. Like I've preconceived the whole tank thing even before World of Tanks. I had a music video that was directed and kind of like. He's a buddy of mine, Nick DeBoer. His name is Smearballs, and we did a video called Monophobia. You can look it up on YouTube. And in one of the shots is this big, hey, let's make a fucking tank in the driveway, just shooting out crap, and stuff like that. So we went and found some some turbo squid tank assets, but then we screwed it all up and made it weird and put Yang Cat on it and made it blue, and I was like, that's pretty funny. So it kind of lent itself to World of Tanks Blitz in a way. So I bet you there was probably some inspiration drawn from the asset artists on that side that were like, okay, yeah, cool.
It's incredible.
He likes tanks.
Now, EDM in Tank Blitz is something I didn't know I needed. How do you think the EDM vibe complements Tank Blitz gameplay experience?
I think the mechanical nature of a tank, and the way that a tank shoots, I think it kind of lends itself to EDM. And this is a weird take, but it's just like tanks aren't machine guns, right? They're very contrived things where it's like everything's very movement's predictable, your rate of fire is predictable, that kind of thing. And there are things that you can do obviously in the game that aren't predictable and in terms of like the flow of the game, but then that can be said about electronic music as well. So there's a very certain steady pace about it and certain repetition and elements and stuff like that just kind of like recur often too. So it would have been, on hindsight, really cool to sync the music with some kind of system in the game that is repetitive, like where it's like the gunfire. Because if there's one thing I hate about a tank is I can't spam.
Yeah.
I can't spray and pray.
You cannot.
You got to be on.
It has to be a little bit more methodical.
Yeah.
Now, how has your love of video games influenced your music, and how has that evolved with the games that you play?
That's a loaded ass question. If I'm being honest, it hasn't.
Sure.
You know, because just music is always evolving on its own, with or without video games. So that's one thing, you know, and I'm really passionate about music, so whatever. Like, if video games ruin it for me, like in that department, cool. Then I'll just kind of put that out of my mind and then continue on with my music making journey. Because I've also been inspired by, like, you know, bands like Nine Inch Nails, Ministry, all that early, like, kind of industrial area is, like, you know, something that kind of kept me going. And then it wasn't until later that those kind of came together, and that was like Quake, for example. Nine Inch Nails, as a matter of fact, did some of the sound design on Quake and stuff like that. And I had a buddy of mine at the time, well, I still do. He was working with Trent Reznor on some other stuff while Trent was working on the Quake stuff. And I was basically living vicariously through my buddy because he was in New Orleans producing this album called The Fragile for Nine Inch Nails. And at the same time, Trent was recording Foley for Quake for ID Software. And Steve was telling me how pissed off he was every day because he had to do like grunt drowning, grunt gargle 2, grunt gargle 3, da-da-da, and he was just smashing keyboards and swearing up and down left and right at the same time trying to write an album. As to being a sound designer and you know, for video games, which is very different than writing music, because you have to play by rules and you have to do things a very methodical and certain way for it to work in a video game engine versus just, you know, printing it to tape or DAT or CD or making music. So it was a really interesting notion to see how meticulous you had to be with that. And that started me down the, like, well, maybe there's something I'd like to do for a living, you know. Being a big DJ / mouse head wearing guy was not on the table at the time, or ever really was. You know, it was just kind of, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a programmer, I want to make music, but for other mediums other than being, you know, a rock star or whatever. So that was interesting.
How competitive are you when it comes to gaming?
Well, professionally or personally?
Personally, I feel like is the...
Yeah. I rage, like, sometimes. It's just like, I like it and I hate it. So, but I like it I hate it to the point where I like it.
Can you talk about, because look, you're a music legend and you grew up with video games, and I feel like in a lot of ways this kind of comes full circle for you. Can you talk about blending your music career and the gaming world in such an immersive project?
Oh, one more time with that last part.
Yeah. Like,
just repeat it.
Yeah. So, can you talk about how it feels to blend your music career and the gaming world?
Oh, got it. Oh, well, I blending my music with the video game world is just like a self-fulfillment thing, really, because it's just like, again, it's no secret I'm passionate about gaming. It's no secret I'm passionate about music. And then when the two things kind of collide, it happens. And it happens often.
Yeah.
Like, one could argue I am the most video gamified EDM artist of all time.
Absolutely.
I almost am sure that's a fact. And that's not coincidentally because, you know, I've found a niche. It's just because they're just two things I love and they just go harmoniously together. And I love doing these collaborations with, you know, franchises and this and that and the other thing and getting it done.
Now, are there any particular tips or advice that you give to participating players at your event?
Oh, at my event, you know what? It's all about the teamwork. I think it's separating that one idiot from the herd and then just beating up on his ass and move on to the next, rinse, repeat. That's what I've been playing it a little bit. I can't say like I'm a vetted, you know, World of Tanks Blitz player, but I will be after this. But yeah, it's finding the weak gazelle and getting rid of him, and then the second weakest, and then the guy that's just like moving all over the place, you just save him for last. But it's definitely about ganging up on a guy.
Now you've hosted gaming events in the past. What is something that you'd like to see for the gaming community going forward to kind of infuse it's like a mainstay for video games?
What do I like to see?
Yeah, in these big events that are...
in the big events?
Yeah.
I mean, not really much you can change there, you know? Like, it's I mean, the last big thing to happen to that is, like, let's stream it.
Sure.
And that was it. You know, like more better outreach, you know, to the gaming community and stuff like that. Maybe even like, you know, in-game. I remember saving demos of matches of Counter-Strike, right? Which basically you could record a demo in Counter-Strike, just like 1-to-1. So your local machine or the server would record the telemetry. I wish more developers would kind of bring that back, but in a live sense, meaning that like, so if you're watching, say, PUBG tournament or something like that, yeah, you're watching just some, announcers and all that. You need that, and the players and all that stuff, and then switching from, pre-contrived, camera angles and stuff like that. Broadcast the game telemetry to a client, so I can explore the game myself from a spectator. You know what I mean? Like in engine, it's totally doable. It's just nobody really does it, and I can't imagine why not, other than, just the demand isn't there. But I think the demand isn't there because people aren't aware that technology is totally doable, So it's like they're like giving us that stuff that we didn't know we needed, we've always needed, because not a lot of people are aware that vector data for player positions and projectile paths is nothing compared to video streaming. Sure. Video streaming is, on the best days, 6 megasecond. Telemetry, you could do that in less than, 500 megasecond. That's how these games work online. You're not sending over entire mesh data and all that stuff. You're sending in 3 numbers, X, Y, Z, and some metadata of the properties of that point in space, right? And then your computer's job is to extrapolate that data and turn it into all the really, like, oh, the tank is moving this way and all that stuff too. So to see that, like in tournament level, spectating of those major events, that'd be cool to see, like real-time telemetry in your game engine or in your client.
One more question I have for you is, because I think that's a fantastic answer, where do you see the future of gaming going? Because I feel like it's endless, honestly.
Oh, geez. Just, you know what? I don't know. But unfortunately, I see it being homogenized into, like, 5 to 10 major publishers, and that's about it. All the indies are getting fucked. But I would love to see, more indie quality come out, where it's like, see, that's I can't give a good answer on that. It's because, like, who's writing game engines?
Yeah.
Unity and Unreal. Mm-hmm. Who's owning it? Unity or Unreal? Yeah. I don't know.
I guess time will tell.
I'm just but a vessel riding the Technox.
Well, look, thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries.
I appreciate you. You're amazing.
Thanks.
Thank you.